Hey guys, and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to show you a few short steps to paint up your Goblin Town Goblins. I've used Goblin Town quite a bit, probably about 12 months ago. I think most of you guys who played me in tournaments would have played my Goblin Town at some point. And I was really happy with the outcome that I got of them. I know there was a lot of Goblin Town flowing around that were very basic Rakarth flesh, wash and a dry brush. I went a little bit further with mine and I got them to a stage that I was very happy with. Really happy with how the army looked. And I got 4 full warbands. The problem that I've got now is I never use the scribe, and I'm really tempted to because I've seen other people use him against me and he's very good and it's a very cool rule. And I'd like to give it a go, so I invested in a load more goblins which I bought off Gethin Watkins, as a lot of you will know from the Facebook group. I just got these as reinforcements really. I bought them, this is how they came from Gethin. They got a fairly basic paint job. I don't know if it was yourself, Gethin, that painted them up, but the problem that I've got is I could have just tidied that paint job up, should I say, but I needed them to look like the goblins that I already have. I don't want it to look like there's 2 different paint jobs. I want it to be quite uniformed on the table. So I tried a few different techniques, and I think I've nailed getting them somewhere near where I don't have to spend as much time on them as I did on my original 4 warbands, because I did spend quite a lot of time on them and detailing and stuff and trying to get them to the look that I wanted. And this was one of Gethin's. One of Gethin's goblins, you see that? And it does fit in quite well. You know, if you were to scrutinise them and hold it up against my others, you can tell the difference slightly, but from a foot away I think they look great. And I've found, like I say, a fairly easy, quick way of doing it, and I'm going to go through them stages with you now. I think there's 4 stages pretty much. But these are not, you can use this if you like, you don't have to use it obviously, but you can use this on miniatures that are already painted, as long as you've not gone mad with the paint. You can use the existing paint job as undercoat, or you can strip them, or you know, you can do it with bare miniatures. If you're using bare miniatures, get a base coat on there of white or a grey would be perfect for this. You don't want to go black because it's too hard to cover. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you through the stages and show you how I've done this guy, and then yeah, I'm going to get all these done. I'm hoping with the way that I'm able to do it, I should be able to get them all done probably in a couple of hours, so that's good. But I'm just going to go through one for the sake of the video and show you the stages that I do. So I'll come back in a second. So stage 1, like I said, you know, if you've got goblins and you just want to spruce them up or make them look a little bit better and more detailed, you can kind of use the paint job that you've got on them as a base coat, which is what I'm going to do with these. So I'm not going to strip them. I just haven't got the time for models that, you know, I'm not going to use that often. I'm just going to go over them. I did that with this guy and it turned out quite well, so I've tested it. I mean, if you've got goblins and the paint on them's quite thick, you may struggle. Lucky enough that whoever painted these seems to have gone on in thin layers, which is good, so there's still a lot of detail being held there. But the things that we're going to do is going to bring out some of the detail as well, so I think we're going to get away with it. But it's entirely up to you. If you're going up for new models, it's not something you have to worry about. But if they are already painted, then you need to make a decision as to whether you want to strip them and spend the time stripping them, or just go straight in. One thing I would say is do a test model. That's what I did. You know, just takes half an hour of your time, and you know whether you're able to do it with the rest of them, rather than spending 2 hours getting a load of them done and thinking, oh, I should have stripped them and having to start again. So stage 1, we're gonna get an all-over base coat. Now, my original models were a Rakarth flesh base coat, and I did them with a brush and a few layers of Rakarth flesh over a grey base coat, a grey undercoat, should I say. I don't have time to do that, and I don't want to go and buy another couple of pots of Rakarth flesh because it does use a lot of Rakarth flesh doing it, this many models. So I scoured a few hobby shops on the internet and stuff like that. You can't buy a Rakarth Flesh spray from GW that I'm aware of. I did search, I did ask in 2DWs and they don't have it. And then I was looking at army painter sprays and things like that, and I couldn't find a match for Rakarth Flesh. And the closest that I've come up with is this stuff. Plastic Coat, the Perfect Finish, and it's a plastic spray. It's for coating plastics basically. I think it's for toys, plastic toys. But the colour is 22114 grey beige, and that's Plastic Coat, the Perfect Finish. This is satin. I couldn't get a matte. I would have preferred a matte. I couldn't get a matte. I had to get a satin. But it's not the end of the world, because what we're going to do at the end is, oh, excuse me, we're going to give everything a coat of anti-shine clear varnish anyway, right at the end, because there's a couple of stages that will leave a shine. So that's what we're going to do. So with this test model, I'm going to go ahead off camera because I'm going to do it outside, and I'm going to give it a very, very light dusting. When I say light dusting, you want to be at least 6 to 8 inches away when you spray. Yeah, at least this far. You don't want to be like that, because you're just going to cake it in paint. 6 to 8, and I tend to, excuse the example, but I tend to keep the spray can moving, keep the model moving, get different angles. You can get it from underneath, get it from the top. Don't try and get it covered dead quick in one go. Just you know, slight dustings. What you want is, you don't want straight away the colour to go on there. Ideally what you want is, when you're using a spray can, is for it to be dusted, so it just looks like it's just settling, and then the more that you do it, the colour sort of joins up, and it becomes more opaque, and that's what you're looking for. Don't try and get that straight off the bat, couple of seconds spray and get a complete coverage, because all you're doing is you're just building up the paint, and it's going to obscure the detail more. So this is more important on this than it would be on a unpainted model, because this has already got a couple of layers of paint on it. So I want to try and not obscure the detail. So at least 8 inches away, and just keep it sort of in the mist. You want to mist it. You don't want to be like spraying it harshly until you've got a nice even coverage, and then let that dry. One thing I will say about this stuff, it does take slightly longer to dry than the GW or the Army Painter spray cans, but make sure it's completely dry. I avoided using a hairdryer on this, because I wasn't sure how this stuff would react with me trying to heat up or speed up the drying process. So I don't know whether, if you do normally use a hairdryer after you spray something, whether that would work or not. That's something you have to try. I'm not in no rush, so I'm not going to use a hairdryer on this one. I'm just going to give it a dusting, and then we'll come back. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've given it a thorough dusting, nice all over, not too heavy. There's still little parts of it where I can see that I've missed, but it's in the crevices, and the next stage is going to basically make that not really matter, because we're going to shade it now. Now, if you remember back to my, whether you may not have seen it, but I did a tutorial on how to build a brie building, and for the shading I used an Agrax Earth Shade that I'd thinned down using different thinners and matte mediums and things like that. That's what we're going to shade with. You can use Agrax neat if you want to, but it's a little bit harsh, I found, when painting these goblins. It kind of goes too dark, so I'm using the watered down version, and then if I need to darken any areas at a latter stage, I will do, because we're going to go back to shading probably the second to last stage. So this is a watered down version. If you haven't got any of this, as I've pre-mentioned in the tutorial on how to do it, it's basically just got matte medium and some deionized water in it, I think it is, but you can just put sort of a 50-50 mix of Agrax and plain water into your mixing palette and thin it down that way. So what we're going to do with this, we're going to get a fairly generous amount on the brush, and we're going to start at the top, and we're going to go down, just brushing downwards. That way, what I tend to do is, if I get any puddles where I'm at the top, I'm able to then drag them down, if that makes sense, because you don't want to go too dark, you just want a nice shade. I mean, everybody's different how they use washes and how they shade, I find. When you speak to different people about what they do, some people absolutely cake it on and get a good result, and other people are very sparing with it. I'm quite sparing with it. I listen to people and say, yeah, I dip it or just slap a load of wash on it, and I try that and it just never works out well, so it doesn't work for me for some unknown reason. So I tend to do it this way. What I tend to do is, if it's not dark enough, I'll then build it up. So there we go, that's kind of what you're looking for. We've got a couple of little puddles there, so we get rid of them. That's kind of where we're at and where we want. This stage will bring out the faces a lot, which is probably one of the main parts of the model that will, if you get a decent face on one of these, it makes all the difference. And I think that's what kind of made mine stand out from them normal, just dry brushed ones on the gaming tables. So make sure you get detail on the face with the shading, because it will help you later on in the tutorial. So I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to come back to the next stage. Okay guys, so the light Agrax wash, or the watered down Agrax wash, whatever you want to call it, has gone on and dried nicely. As you can see, it's darkened up the model. What we're now going to do is a dry brush of rock art. There's not going to be a sort of, how can I say, it's not going to leave one of the dusty effect you get sometimes when you dry brush using a light colour. We're going to be very, very gradual with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some rock art on the brush. And I've gone through this before, I think, in other videos. We're going to take almost everything off. See how it's just residue that's left. And what we're going to do, we're just going to start dry brushing. And very slowly, I don't know if that's coming out now on camera, I will show a close up in a moment. You start to get that tone. I'm just going to do around his face and torso, so you can see the difference. Yeah, and we're not going to try and do it, even though we're doing a quick, how can I say, we are doing a quick paint job. We're not going to do a rushed paint job. We're not going to rush it. We're not going to get loads of paint on the brush and go in there and start ruining everything that we're doing. We're just going to keep it very light, so just the residue of the paint is coming off. Yeah, I'm going to do the whole model without returning to the paint pot, even though it's going to get to a stage in a second where it looks like nothing's coming off the brush. Yeah, just keep going. Don't be tempted to get more paint on. Yeah, because it is coming off very, very lightly, and that's what you want. You just want it to be subtle, and you won't get that chalky effect if you do it like this. Now we're going to leave that for a minute. Okay, we're going to let that paint that's on there dry. You know, it's very dry, hence the word dry brush. We're going to let that dry, because what happens is, if I go back into that pot, dry off my brush again and go over that, that paint's not dry, so I'm going to start getting a rough finish. It's not going to look good. That's how you get the chalky finish, that's how you get like the gritty look. I'm going to let that dry a little bit, then we're going to go back, and where I started on the head and work down the body, we're going to start at the bottom and work up. Yeah? So we'll come back in a second. So we've left that for about 2 or 3 minutes. If you're batch painting, that'll give you time to get through the rest of what you're doing. I've got 30 plus models there. I'm probably going to do these in batches of 10. You know, so I'd do one, put it down, move on to second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. Get to the 10th, and by the time I get back to the first one, he'll be dry. So we're getting almost everything off, and then we're going to start at the bottom, like so. And now you can start seeing the rock art. He's changing from, how can I say, a yellowy brown to that very pale, sickly flesh colour that rock art flesh is, and he's changing. You basically see it in front of your eyes. That's a very easy way of doing it, I found. And as you can see, he's getting more to be like that colour. This looks a lot darker because we've gone to the second stage of the shading and put extra detail in, but we're getting there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry again. I'm going to go away, I'm going to come back in a minute and I'm going to give it one more blast of a dry brush, and it's a very, very light dry brush. Do not try and do this stage in one visit. You need to do it like this, otherwise your mini's not going to look as good as it can do. So I'll come back in a second. So here we go, guys. The final dry brush. So we're getting as much paint off the brush as we can. Like so. And then we're going to go in. And this final one, I always find, I do it in 3 because this is always the one where it starts to look like what I want it to end up looking like, if that makes any sense. You probably could give it a 4th or a 5th if you wanted to, but I find a 3 for what I want to do, and saving time is more than suffice. So your dry brushing, guys, it needs to be exactly that. Your brush needs to be pretty much dry. All that you're taking off is residue of paint, not actually layers of paint. So there we go, I'm happy with that. Excuse me. I'm now going to let that dry. I'm going to go on to the next stage very quickly. See you in a second. Okay, guys, next stage is one last very light dry brush of pallid witch flesh. Now this is going to be an almost non-existent dry brush, even lighter than before. And what we're going to do is, we're not going all over, we're going to go across the face, across like the shoulders, the elbows, on this guy especially, these sort of high lumps on the back, and any of the extremities, like so, just across the top, like that. I'm going to leave the bottom in the original colours that we did in the last stage, and that should be that. I'm just going to give it a little touch more across there. There's a couple of little, the ears and a couple of little pimples there. I just want to bring out. There we go. Edge of the hand, fingers, a little bit on the knees and the toes. But we're going to leave the main torso, the belly and the lower back. I'm going to leave that. Okay, you see that? That's where we're at. So now from this stage, what we're going to do, just clean up my brush, like so, and get myself another shading brush, and we're going to go back to the light mix of Agrax. Now you may be thinking, we've already been here, why are we doing it again? This is just to blend in everything that we've done. So as you can see, there we go, you can see that, you can see the difference. The crevices are a lot darker, the shading's a lot darker, and it just looks a bit more striking, so that's what we're going for. And this will act as blending them last 2 layers of dry brushing in that you've already done. So we're going to start at the top, the face again, and what this will do in the face, even though there's nice detail in the face now with the previous shade, this will build that up, the detail will come out nicely. So there we go, and it's looking good. It is looking good. I'm very happy with it. Like I say, it's very easy, especially batch painting. This technique, like you say, you can, as quick as I'm doing this one now, yeah, make sure there's no pooling. I'll put that down, I'm on to the next one, next one, next one, next one, next one. Actually, it takes about 30 seconds each one, and then you're away, and by the time you've done your 10th or your 15th, however many you're doing, the first one is dry and ready for the next stage. So you can do, once you get it sort of in a good routine, you can kind of go bum 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 through the stages as well. So we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to come back to the next stage. Okay guys, so that blending wash is now dry. What I'm now going to do is like pretty much get the detailing on. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to sit through painting the model the whole time while you're filming, because I don't think this is a good angle to do it. When I get better rigs set up, I can do tutorials like that where you can see what I'm painting, etc. Colours I'm going to use. So I'm going to use Rhinox hide. I'm going to use Rhinox hide for the eyes. I'm going to paint the whole eye in Rhinox hide. I'm going to use Shabti bone. Shabti bone is going to be used for the toenails, fingernails, teeth, and then picking out the pupils in the eyes instead of a white. So I'm using Rhinox hide and a Shabti bone there instead of what I'd use on a human. I'd use black and white. And what I tend to do is I'm just going to put a Rhinox hide. We're going to cover the whole eyeball and sort of in this just around the eyelids in Rhinox hide, and then do 2 small dots of a Shabti bone, leaving a brown dot in the middle. And what that will do, it gives the illusion of an eye, and it also shades the socket, so it's like a twofold thing. I'm going to use Storm Vermin fur, and I'm going to do that for the various strands of hair. There's not a lot, just the odd strand of hair that he has there. I'm going to use Steel Region Drab for his mankini, and this one doesn't have it. Some of them have like bandages around the feet of leather, and I'll probably do the handle of the flail in Steel Legion Drab. And then Lead Belcher for weapons. In this case, like I said, it is a flail. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll come back in a second and show you where I go from there. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've started to put some colour on the detail. So I've got Steel Legion Drab on the sort of bikini thing, Steel Legion Drab on the handle of the weapon, I've done the metal on the weapon, and I've done the teeth, the eyes, toenails, and sort of the hair in Storm Vermin fur, the grey hair. What we're now going to do is we're going to sort of elaborate some of them details, and we're going to do that using Neat Agrax, Neat Athonian Camo Shade, and I'm going to use Bile Red. I do have Caribou Crimson Wash, is it? From the newer range of colours, but the Bile Red is a lot, I think, looks a lot better on this, for this technique anyway. I don't know if they do an equivalent of this or if it just did go to the Caribou Crimson. Caribou Crimson has got like a, how can I say, it's kind of a cross between red and purple rather than being red. They may do a red one, I don't know. I've just never got it. I've always used this because for some reason I end up with 3 pots of this, and I still use it. I've still got plenty left. So what we're going to do, we'll start with this. Why not? So we're going to get the red wash. I'm going to get a brush that's got a nice tip on it, because we're not going to be washing this all over an area. We're going to be getting some on our brush and picking out the boils and the spots, and basically just doing the spot and around the spot. Excuse my face, but I keep forgetting to press mute on the TV, so I do apologise. And what will happen is, because we dry brushed this earlier with the Pallid Witch Flesh, them spots should be nice and sort of have a white head on them. So this makes them look kind of sore and red and swollen, then with a white head. I know that sounds pretty horrible, but you know, it does look good on the model. So we're not putting like a big red blotch around it, we're just being very fine, the tip of a nice brush. Less is more. And what I tend to do, so I pick out the boils, so I could do them first. I'll go around looking for where all the spots and boils are, and I'll do them first, and then I'll do areas where I think might look like it gets sore, you know, like sweat rashes and things. So I'll do sort of the inside of the elbows, the reverse side of the knee. I'll put some of the red in, just coming up from the armpit, bit of red anywhere where there's a deep crease where you've already got a shade in there from the earlier shading before. These sort of malfigured shoulders and things like that, just a hint of the red, and it does end up looking quite cool. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. I'll do around the knee as well, just around there. It's got some boils there that I missed. You'll tend to, especially if you're doing more than one, you'll tend to do that. You'll miss loads of things. I remember it from the first time around doing it. So always check and then check again. So that's that. What I'm also going to do is I'm just going to put some red. This guy has like a little sort of, looks like a scar or a cut out from his bottom lip there. So I'm going to put some red in there, and just around the edges of the mouth, under the lip, just around there, just a little bit, just underneath the ears and the earlobes. yeah, and it just sort of defines things and makes things stand out. So that's all I'm going to use on the bar red. Then what we're going to do is the green. I mean, I'm using a Athonian Camel shade because I like the shade, but you can use any shade of the green wash. This is like a dirty green. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to do it so from the inside where the ear hole would be, just as if there's just like, you know, wax and goo and gunk seeping out, and it's just a hint of colour around the nose. You know, so he's got like bogies coming out, and you can go as far as you can do that dripping down if you'd want. And what I tend to do as well, just coming from the tear ducts down the cheek, I think it looks quite nice. There we go. Yeah. And that's all we're going to do with the green. And then we're going to go back to the neat Agrax. And what we're going to do with the Agrax is, we don't need to use a fine brush for this, we can use a bigger brush, an older brush. We're going to put a neat wash over the Steel Legion drab. And what this will do, this is going to create a dark line, especially where his mankini bottoms are around the sides. It's just like a thin rope, piece of string. We want to define that, and the Agrax will outline it both sides for you. And then what you can do, any areas where you think that light shade's not shaded it enough, you want it to be a little bit darker, we can just go in with the neat Agrax and do that. At this stage I'm going to go over the hair with the Agrax, because even though it's grey, I mean, normally in grey I'd probably do a Nuln Oil wash over to shade. I don't want any black on this, it's too light. So I'm keeping all brown shades, so Agrax is perfect. And just be very careful with the neat stuff that you don't go over anything that you want to ruin that you've done before. But that is pretty much that. Again, I went a lot further with my original guys when I painted them up, and I just couldn't see myself having the patience to do it again, especially when I'm not really going to use them that much. I just wanted them there, so if I ever do use them I can use the scribe, and I've got spare goblins. I don't need that many, but then again at the same time it's going to be fun to have that many. You know, some fun games, maybe just field a load of goblins and captains, because I've also got another Grinner which I'll convert, and another one of the little captains which I'll convert, and that'll be cool. But that is basically it. This guy now needs basing on one of the Generation Shift bases, so I need to get a load of them painted up. I need to order some more, excuse me, off Matt, so I'll be popping him an email over. Once these are painted up I'll get a load of the bases painted up, and yeah, we'll be away we go, should I say. And that is basically it. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. It was really quick, easy way of doing them. The plastic coat spray which I use, which works perfectly, grey beige, I got from a place called Range, the Range in Manchester. They've probably got them everywhere in the UK, but I'm sure you'll find plastic coat anywhere. If you go on Amazon, you'll get it on Amazon easy, and that's the colour that you want if you want this sort of finish. So thanks for watching guys, keep on gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.